So we should indeed be live. Good evening to you. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. If you are a podcaster like me, or you want to be one, then I'm sure you've spent plenty of time going around the internet looking for techniques that actually work with podcasting. You know, is it about building a hit show, or is it about building your audience and getting lots of extra listeners? There is so much advice out there, so many myths, ideas, bold statements that say you must do this and you will achieve success. But does any of it work? Some of it, as I've found, does, but some of it definitely doesn't. And I wanted to do a show which helps us all avoid these time-wasting experiments that don't work. So we could have done a show where we had loads of extra opinions again, but I think there's plenty of that out there already. What I wanted to do was to do a show where we test the hard data, where we let the data give the answers. So what I've actually done is I've set up a couple of experiments tonight, which I'll describe in just a second, so that we can actually see whether advertising works during this live program on YouTube this evening. And I'm also absolutely delighted to be joined by three other panelists tonight who are all podcasters, and I'll let them introduce themselves in just a second, who have tried paid adverts and have got some real data and some real experiences on what worked and what didn't. And I'm really looking forward to hearing those as well. So let me just run you through these experiments that I've set up for tonight. And what I've got is I put some money into Facebook ads, and I'm in Britain, so I put in 20 British pounds into a campaign which took me quite a while to actually set up on Facebook, to see whether we could get people to come through and watch this video tonight. So do paid adverts work? I've also set up a separate campaign to see whether people will sign up and subscribe to my podcast, Can I Make a Hit Podcast? But I'm really interested in this video one. So you can see on the screen at the moment the campaign, and we will hopefully start to see a little bit of data coming through. Right now, I can tell you that the reach is 0 and the number of impressions is 0, so we're having a huge success so far with this. But I think we'll also hear some really interesting points in a moment from some of our guests about the time that you need to actually get this moving. So I've also got up Bitly as well, which I'm using to track some of the clicks, and so far we have achieved absolutely 0 clicks. So far, no success, but we've literally been going for 3 minutes, and we will see what Facebook does and where it places those ads over the next 20-25 minutes or so. So I want to get some hard data on this, and as I say, I'm really pleased to have 3 podcasters who have actually been trying to get listeners with paid ads over the course of their podcast. And first of all, I would like to go around all 3 of you first. If you could introduce yourselves and also just tell us a little bit about your podcast. Let's start off with Mike Fisher. We've actually got 3 M's tonight, so this is going to make it really confusing. But Mike Fisher, could you tell us a little bit about your show?
I started the Anyway Whatever podcast sometime around March. I'd been building up to doing it for like the last year, and with the pandemic lockdown, I just decided I had free time to do it. So, and then none of my business went away, and then I just basically gave myself a second full-time job. So, my show is all dedicated to the arts, design, music, and anything in the creative realms. And as a professional designer and artist, I can tap a lot of years worth of contacts and friends and stuff like that. So
yeah, you've got some amazing guests on there. Matt Napo, you're next down on the screen for me, so come on, introduce MindDog TV to us.
Well, hello and welcome. I'm Matt Napo, the host of MindDog TV. MindDog TV encourages independent thinking and free thought. We tend to open the doors to provocative issues. I have on my show, I talk to comedians, filmmakers, authors, musicians, philosophers, scientists, you name it. And I encourage the audience to do their own fact-checking, come to their own conclusions. But it is absolutely a very free and open discussion about anything and everything that interests me. So I'm basically nicheless. I'm an entertainer and been in the entertainment industry for most of my life. So I'm very interested in that stuff. But, politics, you name it, anything goes. I do 2 shows a day. I started about a year ago. October 11th will be my anniversary. I just came up on my 227th episode last week. Actually, just this morning, actually. So I have almost 1 million downloads at this point. So I've been doing very well. I've been growing very fast and using advertising. So I think I'll have some.
I think this is going to be really interesting, this, Matt. Mike, let's move on to you just finally. Wisecracking with Winter. I've actually been on your show as well, haven't I?
Yeah.
You have, sir. You have.
Yeah, so tell us about your show.
Okay. Hi, my name is Mike Winter. I host Wisecracking with Winter. It's a comedy show. I have a revolving set of co-hosts. One guy that's into politics, another one that's into more slice of life things, and then I'll put my daughter on sometimes so I can still be relevant to Generation Z. I guess what I'm looking to do with this show is I have a great time. I've been on for 5+ years. And I encourage my audience to aim low and never move out of their parents' basements, basically. So just give up trying.
Well, that's aspirational.
Well, look, I talk to artists and musicians, so that's where all my audience is too.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, let's have a look at the ads and just see whether we've got a huge response yet from that. What have we got so far? No, we've not got a single click. And
Awesome.
then on Facebook, have they spent any of my money yet, is the question. Well, not by the look of it. Well, we will see as we go along what happens with that one. So what I want to do now is to actually get each one of my guests to talk through some of the experiences. And so, again, this is not about opinions. We've got so much of that. We want to get their real world experiences and what worked and what they learned from it. So if we could, can we start with Mike Fisher? You told us just before we started about something you've been trying with Instagram.
Yeah. Leading up to this, I decided to do, when I first started putting out my episodes, I think it was the first week of June, I did a paid promotion on Instagram and I did a paid promotion on Facebook. And the Instagram one didn't work the way I wanted, but I decided to do another one this week now that I've had, 4 months on air, and to see what I could get. And normally every week I do a little audio clip, still image, audio over the top, just as a promo for Instagram. And they usually get about 120 to 220 views in the week that they run. And so I decided to do an Instagram post, a promoted post with the same audio clip that I normally would. And it got a lot more views. Like it got, I think I did like 1,230 views on the video clip, which is fantastic. That's 1,000 more than I usually get. But on the downside of that, which is what I suspected, I got 2 follows and I only got 21 profile visits. So there was no value in actual aggregated followers. It's people just watched and listened to the clip. I saw no rise in streams or downloads because I have a YouTube version and an audio version. And it's the exact same show. I just stripped the audio out and put it on the audio one, and then the YouTube one has the video. No bump in either of those in streams or downloads. So it helped a little bit with people seeing my post, but I didn't really get anything out of it.
Do you think you learned something from the first time you tried it? I mean, did you try something different?
Well, the first time I tried it, Instagram hadn't set it up so that you could promote a video. You could only promote a still image. So the difference there is that the first launch promotion was on a still image, and this was on the audio clip, which was technically video, even though it's a still image. But so that was the only real difference, and it was a $25 5-day promotion.
Have either of the other you guys tried Instagram adverts?
Yeah.
No, I have not. I've done Facebook.
Matt, in an up or down, was it a success or not?
Well, it was moderately successful. I don't put a lot of money into it and haven't done a lot of it because it's not necessarily my demographic. My demographic is skewing much younger than I would think that it would. And so what I'm finding is Instagram is kind of almost the middle-aged people. Facebook is more the boomers, and every other except Twitter, every other social media outlet is where people go to escape the boomers and the middle-aged people. The younger people go to get away from us.
Where are those outlets? What spaces are you talking about? I'm curious.
TikTok, Snapchat, all that kind of stuff. WhatsApp, you name it. Anything that doesn't smell of boomers and middle-aged people, the younger people want to go there.
Well, talk
quickly.
us through your experience, Matt. What's your story of trying out buying listeners, basically?
Well, number one, I'd like to preface this by saying ads definitely work, but the science of this is really going to be iffy, because in order to get really hard data, you have to do a lot of scientific testing, A/B testing, where you're only changing one element at a time and using very similar ads with just one thing tested, and that's the thing that made the difference. So a lot of this stuff doesn't have that level of control group, which is a scientific thing, and the tracking stuff needs to be done really, really well. I will tell you I have several sets here of hard data that I can read to you if you would like. My very first set is my first episode was the subject, and the subject makes a big difference, right? And titles and how we titled the ads and all that stuff. The subject was the death of comedy, and it was about cancel culture, and I had several comedians on. The groups I promoted it to were comedian groups on Facebook, and I did a lot of free stuff on that, posting in groups that coincided with the advertising. So I did a $20 USD Facebook ad for 7 days prior. Now, I do my shows all live stream, so I did it as an event and promoted the event, and people saw that. So I had 7 days in advance to do this, to get my audiences were the Joe Rogan podcast fans, the Joe Rogan Experience podcast fans, several other podcasts which were comedic in nature. Doug Stanhope was one. So my reach for that $20 for that seven days was 3,027 people. It reached. The result was seven viewers, averaging time 3 minutes and 47 seconds. Now, at the same time, I did the same ad on YouTube, spent $20 for 7 days, and the target was just basically whatever YouTube decides, because you don't get to do micro-targeting on YouTube. My reach was 7,441, almost more than double the reach. The result was 123 viewers. Average view times with 33 minutes and 12 seconds. So the view time on YouTube, which is the important thing. The first one, the Facebook, got me 3 minutes and 47 seconds. The YouTube ad got me 33 minutes and 12 seconds. Big difference there. And then episode 1, the live stream, I did just a generic ad on a podcasting network that got me 15,101 people, resulting in 76 viewers, averaging view times of 12 minutes and 15 seconds. So advertising on a podcasting network where comedy podcast will insert like Anchor and stuff like that, was pretty effective for me as well. So I used all three of those with varying results. Facebook was the least productive, but again, a lot of things factor into that. My quality of my ad, which was not a video ad, it was a static picture with a description ad, versus the YouTube one, which had to be a video. So it's a little different in that. Control groups are hard to really manage. Also on that episode, I did, as I mentioned, the posting in many groups, and through what I could ascertain through all my Google Analytics and all that stuff, it netted me 87 YouTube subscribers, 11 Facebook subscribers, 112 audio podcast subscribers, 12 added to my mailing list, 119 audio downloads.
You've got some fantastic data there, Matt.
That's impressive.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's like I'm in school.
It's like a math lesson.
It's also a lot of work, and that's what people have to be prepared for. If they're going to get into this analytics stuff and comparing stuff, make sure you got lots of hours, and your family doesn't care about if they miss you or not.
So there's almost a question there, actually, which is, for your average podcaster who's just starting out, yes, adverts might work, but have you got the time to make them work?
Right, and have you had the expertise to make them work? Sometimes it's better to go to an agency who has the expertise. Sprizzy, for example, is one, and I'm not plugging them by any way. I don't have any affiliation with them, but it's one that will help on YouTube because they know how to get your ads placed to the right people who are going to see them. Right. They look at your ad and do your offering, do analysis on it and say who's the target audience for them, and they have a network and agreement with YouTube already to get you placed in those recommendation spots and all those kind of things. So that helps a lot.
Really interesting. Wow. Mike, let's just have a quick look at the amazing success of my campaign so far. And oh my gosh, we've had a click. We have had a click.
That's
a big celebration.
Yes, absolutely.
We are up to, we had 12 clicks overall earlier, and now we're up to 13 clicks. So I'm just trying to see how they actually said whether they've taken any money yet on this. Let's have a look at the charts. Well, according to this, 0 people have been reached. I don't know whether it takes time for Facebook to update. And have you guys got any experience on that one?
I do. I pay for Facebook ads here and there, depending on how good the episode was. And I'll usually spend $20 and I'll chase a certain demographic, like 18 to 45 years old. And I'll get about 1,600 views on the ad. And I think the last one had 15 post clicks to my show. So, you get what you pay for, I think. If you spent a lot of money, like $100, you may get a lot more post clicks, but how much money are you willing to spend on a show that's not generating any money? So
that's a good point. Also, he mentioned the micro targeting, and that's a big part of it. You gotta get really good at that and understand who you're targeting for what episode and what your target has to match your episode really well.
I was going to say. Yeah, I mean, Mike, could you tell us a little bit about that, about how you pick the people? Because when I was going through it to set up this advert, I sort of thought, well, who might be the kind of people that were interested in learning about how to make a podcast? So how did you approach it?
Well, I did a show on politics where we basically just made fun of both sides for an hour. So then I changed the demographic on the ad from 18 to, 45 to 45 to 65, because you get a lot of boomers on Facebook arguing about politics nonstop. So I just went after them, and I ended up getting a lot of comments on the post and a lot of feedback from random strangers complaining about my political views, which I find, which I love, so. Yeah, I guess for me, it depends on what kind of episode you do. With my show, it changes every week. I'll do a show about this and a show about that. And I just chase the people that I think will like it.
So you try to target the audience that would be listening to that particular episode of the show.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. If it's sports, we're picking NFL games, then I'll try to make it a little younger. It just all depends, because I basically host a variety show. Every week it's whatever I feel like talking about. That's what I talk about. It's not a set subject.
Yeah, I was going to make a point there about micro-targeting, in that micro-targeting is good. With Facebook, you can get really deep on stuff. For instance, his political thing, he could have went into Republican Party, Democratic Party, Libertarians, all that kind of stuff, and found those people. There are some instances where micro-targeting too deep can actually hurt your end result. And I'll give you an example of that. If I were, and I have done this, targeted the Joe Rogan Experience fans on stuff that was on one of my shows that was more business related, I'd get those people and turn them off. They would see the ad, and then I would lose them completely and get no traction from them. So micro-targeting too deeply can hurt you, but you have to be aware that it's there, because if you use it correctly, it can be a very powerful tool. So something to keep in mind.
So we're going to wrap up. I really want to sort of gather your final thoughts and just what we've talked about tonight. I mean, it's interesting, this whole thing about targeting, but whether you have the time and effort to actually go through the whole process. So when we ask the question, do paid ads work to get your listeners? The answer is kind of yes, if you've got the time.
Yes. Yes, and you have the time and the knowledge and the expertise and quality production resources at your disposal. When I do video ads, I create specific video ads. I don't use videos that are pre-existing. I create video ads from scratch that I think are going to make the best bang for the buck. Not everybody has those resources to create a custom video for an ad. They're going to use an existing ad, something they already have on YouTube or Facebook or whatever. So that's an important part to take into it. Yeah, so it's time, resources, and expertise, and you have to learn a lot about what the whole marketing game is all about.
Final thought from the other mics.
For me, my takeaway here is that I had an absolute abject failure of a Facebook post when I first launched. I mean, it was so bad that within 12 hours, I canceled it and vowed to never, ever pay Facebook ever again to promote my show. Because it was just, I have no politics in my show at all. It's just about art. And every comment was from conservatives telling me that I was destroying their Facebook experience, or from Russian bots just spamming Trump propaganda into my comments. And it's like, it didn't have anything to do with. So what my takeaway is, I need to focus on, if I'm going to do that, I need to learn how to focus on the micro targeting.
Mike Winter.
I think I just didn't do it right.
Yeah, Mike.
For me, I think it's continuity. If you're putting out a show every week like you're supposed to, your audience will grow. And I experienced a little bit of pod fade. Now, Rich can appreciate that in August, where I decided I wanted to go up north and party and not do my show for a month because I'm the boss. So I did it. And my producer warned me, he's like, you're going to lose people if you do something like that, Mike. And I'm like, well, I'd rather go party and have fun, let them listen to my back catalog, And when I got back and I started putting shows out every week again, and sure enough, my numbers were way down because I wasn't putting them out every Tuesday like I had been before. So ads are nice, but I think continuity and being on time every week with your product really matters a lot too.
Superb.
Agreed.
So if we say, I think probably the only way we can actually kind of come to a conclusion on this is to pick a scenario. And let's say someone's starting off, they're about to do their first episode. Would you say they should put money into ads on their first episode? Yes or no?
No.
It's a no from Matt. Mike?
I'd say probably yes. I mean, I don't think it can hurt you overall.
Okay. And Mike Winter?
Oh, I'm a resounding no. I think you should be good at your craft before you start advertising it. Like maybe after 15 episodes, then start paying some money.
Well, let's have a look at the success of our ads tonight. No more clicks. We got 1 click. And by the look of it, I mean, I can't tell on here whether it's actually taken any money or not. Oh, here we go. I've finally got some statistics, actually. 77 reach, 85 impressions, but we've had 1 click. So what's that? That's a ratio of under 1%, isn't it? But still. I'll see on the other experiment whether I've actually got any more listeners or subscribers to my podcast as well, and I'll update that. But really interesting talking to you all this evening. Thank you so much. Just finally, where people can get hold of you. Should we start with Mike Fisher again from the top?
On Twitter, AWP_ podcast. On Instagram at Anyway Whatever Podcast, and AnywayWhateverPodcast.com has every single episode, video and audio format, always on that page.
Matt Nashpo.
MindDogTV.com. It's just as simple as that. You can email me there, info@MindDogTV.com. Visit the website, and then you can check out the podcast, and all my social media links are on the site, MindDogTV.com.
And Mike Winter.
I think I might just spend my advertising dollar with Matt over at MindDog TV. We'll talk about that afterwards.
Well, if I could, that is actually the best way to organically grow your audience. And I was prepared to talk about that if you want. Having guests on and being a guest on another podcast is the best way. I've had celebrities on my show who just gave a nod to me. I'll give you an example. Doug Stanhope, I've had him on twice. Both times he's mentioned me on his podcast. The last time he mentioned me, I got 12,000 subscribers the day after he mentioned me on his podcast. So if you can get on or get a celebrity on and give them a great experience, or somebody who's notable, give them a great experience and they'll mention you on their podcast, that's the best way I've organically grown my audience, is through people like that.
It's been a huge pleasure. We could literally talk about this for hours and hours. So thank you so much for joining us for these few minutes this evening. That's it for the moment. We will try and do another one of these experiments soon. We'll have a look at an issue that people are asking about on Facebook or wherever, one of those common podcast questions, and then we will try and tackle it live and see if we get a bit more success than my Facebook campaign did this evening. But some fantastic ideas in there, and I hope that it was very useful to you. Very good evening from me, and good day from all my American colleagues.
Bye for now.
Goodbye for now.